3 years ago, she, who bore a striking resemblance to my late wife, saw a photo of her and said, "Bob, could your wife be? My name is Bob. I'm a 38-year-old employee at an IT company. I met my wife, Emily, 12 years ago through a friend's introduction. Emily had lost her parents when she was young and was raised in a foster care facility. Perhaps because of the loneliness she experienced growing up without a family, she was very compassionate and kind to others. She was also affectionate and great at winning people over, and I quickly fell in love with her. One day, after a night out with friends, I managed to be alone with her under the guise of coincidence and gathered the courage to confess my feelings. "Emily, I like you. Will you go out with me?" Blushing up to ears, she replied, "I like you too, Bob." From then on, we started dating and, 10 years ago, I proposed and we got married. Since then, life with Emily was like a dream. We both worked and shared household chores. Emily wasn't great at cooking, but her curry was incredibly delicious. Today we're having curry. Yum, it's fantastic. Can I have seconds? Aren't you eating too much? But it's so good. I cook sometimes too, and she would exaggeratedly praise how delicious it was. On weekends, we would clean the house together, go shopping, and then rent our favorite movies to watch. The last scene was amazing. Yeah, it really moved me. Emily and I shared a love for the same movies and got along well. Although we struggled to have children, we were a happy couple living contentedly. Our happiness was shattered on a swelteringly hot summer day 3 years ago. Emily, who worked in sales for an insurance company, was out on her rounds that day. While crossing at a green light, a drunk driver in a truck plowed into her at high speed, and she passed away. Devastated by the loss of my wife, I spent days crying and became so grief-stricken that I couldn't even go to work for a while. Why did Emily have to suffer such a terrible fate? How cruel can fate be? How painful it must have been to be hit by such a large truck. Poor thing. The more I thought about it, the more my grief and emptiness overflowed, unstoppable like a flood of tears. I drowned my sorrows in alcohol every night, weeping while looking at her photos and reminiscing. Eventually, I couldn't keep taking time off work. With no more paid leave and needing to support myself, I considered following in Emily's footsteps but realized she wouldn't have wanted that. I had to keep living, to preserve the memories of Emily. I thought that perhaps keeping busy with work might distract me from the grief. And so, after returning to work, 3 years have swiftly passed by. 3 years have passed since then, working tirelessly to escape the sorrow of losing her. I handled a massive workload, earned a promotion, and became a relied-upon manager, finding fulfillment in my job. Then, one day, she joined the company. "I'm Kate, nice to meet you." She was the new contract employee in our department. No way, it can't be. I stared at her face intently. Bob, is there something on my face?" "No, sorry, it's nothing." Her face, it was the spitting image of Emily's. Almost as if they were twins. But she must be in her early 20s. Emily would have turned 37 this year if she were still alive. It couldn't be a case of twins or sisters. Could it just be a striking resemblance to a stranger? "Kate, please use that empty seat over there. Maria, sitting next to you, will show you the ropes." I instructed her, trying to conceal my pounding heart with a calm demeanor. "Understood," she replied. Her voice even seemed similar, somehow. Is such a coincidence even possible? Or am I just so longing for my wife that I'm seeing illusions? That's what I began to think. But the more I saw her, the more Kate looked exactly like Emily. Her voice, the way she talked, even her cough, laugh, and the way she sneezed, it was hard to believe she was just a look-alike. Maybe she's a relative. That's it. I should ask Kate if she knows anything about my wife. One day, I called her to a meeting room, saying I had something important to discuss. Bob, what did you want to talk about? Kate, there's something I'd like to ask you. Do you know this woman? I showed her a photo of my wife on my phone. She widened her eyes in surprise. This woman, she looks just like me. Who is she? This is my wife. Unfortunately, she passed away in a traffic accident 3 years ago. I'm so sorry for your loss, she responded. Then, looking up at me with difficulty, she asked, Your wife, could her name possibly be Emily? Hearing her mention Emily's name, my heart skipped a beat. Yes, that's right, Emily. How do you know her name? Then her maiden name must be Abbott, right? I gasped as she correctly guessed my wife's maiden name. Kate, what exactly is your relationship with my wife? When I asked, she uttered astonishing words. I am Emily Abbott's daughter. What, daughter? Unbelievably, she was the child Emily had given birth to before we met. I was given up for adoption soon after birth and was later adopted by my current parents. I only learned about it when I became an adult and needed my family register for a passport for an overseas trip. That's when I first found out I was adopted. Her adoptive parents later told her about her origins when she confronted them. Emily, my wife, had become pregnant with her at the young age of 16. However, the older man she was dating at the time abandoned her upon learning of the pregnancy. Emily, who had lost her parents young and grew up in a facility, had no one to confide in and became increasingly isolated as her pregnancy advanced, until a staff member at the facility noticed. After giving birth, the baby was placed for adoption through a consultation agency with a couple who wanted children but couldn't have their own. And so Kate became the adopted daughter of her current parents. But Emily never mentioned having a child to me. Did she not mention it because she gave her up for adoption, making her no longer a child? Or maybe she thought I would be shocked to hear about it. Now, I'll never know what Emily was thinking by keeping it a secret. But learning that Emily had a child, after years of us being unable to have one, stirred a strange feeling inside me. Emily is no longer in this world. But her genes have indeed been passed on to the next generation. This thought almost moved me to tears. So, you're Emily's daughter. I never imagined meeting you here. I'm glad you told me. I said, looking into Kate's face, the spitting image of my wife. She might not be my child, but she's the daughter of the woman I loved. I sincerely hope she lives happily. Bob, I have a favor to ask you. If you don't mind, could you tell me about your wife? Even though I knew I was adopted, I always thought my real parents were my current foster parents. So, I didn't care about the birth parents who abandoned me, but now, I want to know my roots. Oh, sure. It's natural to want to know what kind of person your birth mother was. I took her out to dinner that night, and we talked about the many memories I had with my wife. I told her about my wife's hobbies, such as movies and her favorite dishes, as well as details about her upbringing, the environment in which she grew up, the words she often spoke, the books she read, and so on. She listened with great interest. Actually, I like movies too, and I always watch 2 a week. She said, I like that movie too. What a coincidence. Curry is my favorite dish to make too. I guess we are similar in that way. Her eyes lit up when she realized the similarities between her mother and herself. Later that day, I was asked by her to show her around my wife's grave. She laid flowers in front of the grave and spoke to my wife. Thank you for giving birth to me, Mother. Thanks to you, I'm very happy and joyful now. My father and mother, who raised me, are very nice people, and I am glad that I met them. I am so glad that I was born. Hearing that, I burst into tears. I wonder if Emily is listening to this. Emily may have regretted having a child at the young age of only 16, but now that child is telling me that she is glad to have been born. I wish Emily could have at least met her while she was still alive. From now on, I want to support her because I couldn't do so initially. But right now, she and I are just boss and subordinate. I want to be a good boss for her at least. I hope I can be a support for her in my work as a boss. With this in mind, I became more enthusiastic about my work from the next day. It was then. Suddenly, a shocking scene caught my eye. "Kate, can I have a word?" "Yes, Max, may I help you?" Kate is called by Max, the department manager, and goes to the side of the desk. Max showed Kate the documents and, to my surprise, quickly patted her buttocks while giving her work instructions. She says, "What are you doing? Stop it, Max." When Kate resisted with a stifled voice, he said, "What are you talking about?" Max acted as if nothing had happened. I stood up hurriedly. "Max, I sighed too. Where are you touching?" "What? I didn't do anything." "You're not getting away with this. I'm going to report this to HR." "What? You dare to oppose me, your boss, in the name of your subordinate? I don't care what happens to you." Max was furious. I was prepared for the possibility that I might be told something or other and be fired. But when Kate and I went to consult with the personnel department together, Max was given a stern warning later that day. Furthermore, he was transferred to another department. Oh, thank goodness. Thank you so much for covering for me. I was in trouble because Max was persistent. According to Kate's story, Max had persistently invited her to dinner and even threatened to fire her if she refused. I'm so glad he got transferred. And by the way, you should have talked to me about it earlier. I'm sorry. I thought I might cause trouble to you. From now on, don't hesitate to consult me about anything. When I said that, Kate smiled happily. Thank you. At that moment, I thought, I want to protect this smile. Though I can't be her father, I want to do everything I can for her. After that, I recommended her for a full-time position, advocating to the senior management and HR. Thanks to that, Kate was successfully hired as a permanent employee of our company. This meant I could continue to watch over her closely. Relieved by this thought, I felt at ease. 2 years later, Kate got married to a male colleague she met at a company social gathering. Of course, as her boss, I attended the wedding. She looked stunningly beautiful in her bridal gown. The entertainment at the reception included a movie showing her childhood photos, which was deeply touching. When she came to my table during the candle service, I said, "Congratulations, be happy," and she tearfully replied, "Thank you, Bob. You're like a second father to me. Please keep watching over me." Of course, hearing those words, I struggled to hold back tears of joy. I wondered if Emily in heaven could see her. See her looking so happy in her bridal splendor. "Tom, please take good care of Kate." I lightly patted the groom, Tom, on the shoulder. Of course, I will definitely make her happy. Tom, the groom, was a bright and energetic young man. He was competent at work and well regarded, so I felt at ease entrusting Kate to him. I also gave a speech as her boss. I talked about her hard-working and diligent nature, sharing various anecdotes, and took a photo with her. This photo would become a lifelong treasure. I even showed it to Emily's memorial altar. About a year later, Kate had a baby, and she sent me a photo of a tiny infant with a bright red face. Emily's grandchild. I felt as happy as if my own grandchild was born. Emily, your daughter is now a wonderful mother. I spoke to the photo of my wife, as usual. Let's keep watching over them, ensuring their family remains happy forever. Saying that, I felt as if my wife smiled gently back.